Hello everyone. So in this video I'm going to be showing you how to import a tool that you might have drawn using SolidWorks or CATIA or Autodesk Inventor or any of the other CAD packages and bring it into Robot Studio uh, and use it with your programming. Many times you want to design and you want to build your own tool because that's what you want to simulate in your robot program or the Robot Studio program. So let's start by creating a solution with station and robot controller. It doesn't matter which robot you select. For this exercise, I'm going to go with the IRB 140 6 kilogram 0.81 meter range or reach robot. So let's go ahead and create that. So it's going to take a while till it connects to the controller. Okay, so it's connected to the controller, and now we need to select one of the robots from this list. Let's go with the first one here. Let's click on OK. Okay, so now that we have our robot, you must be quite familiar with Robot Studio. If you want to rotate it, as you all know, you press the Shift key and Control key on your keyboard and use the left mouse key on your mouse, so you can now rotate the workspace with your robot. So now let me just show you something with the jog linear movement, and let's see what happens with the tool center point. So if I select my jog linear under the freehand, select my joint there, and you can see that everything is moving with respect to the tool center point. You can see that the tool center point is fixed and it's moving along the linear direction. In this case the Y, and that's along the X-axis, and that's along the Z-axis. Now you'll notice that the joints of the robot try to rotate to keep that point fixed in one plane or one axis. So it's very important that when you have your own tool, you have a new TCP point defined for your tool. Okay, and that's what I'm going to be showing you in this video. Okay, so let's get in the tool, and we'll start creating the new TCP for that tool. So I've created a new tool and I've saved it on my desktop, so I'm going to go and look for that. So import geometry, browse for geometry, and I've saved it on my desktop and I've called it welding tool.sat. Now that's the other important thing you need to do when you create your tool using the CAD packages, SolidWorks, CATIA, or Pro-E, or the Autodesk Inventor. Make sure you save it as a .sat file. Alright, so I've selected this tool and I'm going to click on Open now. Okay, so my tool is actually here at the base reference frame or the base coordinate system, and you have your world coordinate system or world reference frame, and then you have your tool center point or tool reference frame. When I created my tool in SolidWorks, I created it using the front plane. So when I did that in the front plane, you can see that it by default the position is exactly where it should be. Okay, but that's not always going to be the case. So I'm just going to make the robot invisible for a few minutes, and then just to show you where the tool is and what it looks like, or the direction. So I'm going to select my robot, click on it once, right click with my mouse, and you see it says visible. I'm just going to click on that, and so you can see that my robot is now invisible. Okay, so the very important thing you need to follow when you're bringing in your tool is make sure that your tool is aligned to this base reference frame. So wherever it's going to get attached to the robot tool flange, that surface needs to be aligned to this base coordinate frame. Okay, so in this case, as I told you, if if you do it on the front plane in SolidWorks, as I've done here, it works perfectly. It perfectly dropped it on the base coordinate frame. Now, that may not always happen. Your tool may be rotated at a different angle or is positioned somewhere else. And so you need to first bring it over and set this as your reference. Okay, so I'm going to show you what happens if your tool is not set to the base reference frame. What do you do to get it to the base reference frame? So I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to rotate the tool and move it to a different location. And I'm going to show you how you can get it to the base reference frame if it isn't. So I'm going to skip the next few steps. You won't see them because I don't want to confuse you. You might think that those are the steps that you need to follow. So I'm just going to pause it and rotate my view, and then I'll show you the steps to get it to the current form that it is in right now. Okay, so I'm back just to show you how to set this up. So this is what may happen if you draw your tool. Maybe in a different plane. For example, maybe you use the right plane or you use the top plane. And so your tool may end up looking something like this or pointing in this direction. So you can see there's no relationship between the base of the tool here and the base coordinate frame. So we need to get this tool set up to this base coordinate frame before we can actually do the TCP point. So it's very, very important that we follow the next few steps if this is what happens to your tool. If your tool is like what I showed you before, you have it right at the base coordinate frame, then you can skip this step. But I wanted to show you both steps in case you run into this problem. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we're going to go to the toolbar menu here, and we're going to select surface selection, and we're also going to select the snap center. Okay, so those two have to be selected, and the next thing we want to do is go to our tool, click on that once, right click, and I'm going to go to position, and let's go to place. Click on place, and we're going to use the 1-point method. Okay, so now that we have this window, so what we're going to do is I'm going to highlight the first number here. So you see it's a 0, but you can see that it's not highlighted, it's just blinking. So use your mouse, select the 0, highlight that as you see here, and we have our snap center and our path selection or surface selection selected. So I'm going to select my this edge or this surface, because that's going to be my reference that's going to be attached to the robot tool flange. So I'm going to click on that once, and you can see it's picked the center of my tool. I'm going to click on apply, and I'm going to close this. Okay, so that's the first step. We're still not done because my tool is still pointing in the wrong direction. I want to make sure that my tool is pointing upwards. Okay, it has to be pointing in the Z direction. So what we're going to do is we're going to rotate this tool. So I'm going to go back to my tool, right click, go to position, and select rotate. So here you can see that this is our x-axis. So we want to be able to rotate this 90 degrees about the x. So you want to make sure that you've selected x here, and I'm going to enter 90 degrees and click on apply, and you can see that now my tool is pointing upwards. Okay, and I can close this. So you can do this, you can select whatever angle, figure out the angle, and you can adjust the angle settings till you get it to the right position. So I'm just going to do a quick rotate to make sure that it looks fine. It's exactly where I want it to be, which is actually on the base coordinate frame. So that's good. So we have the tool at the base coordinate frame. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is we now need to create a frame. You see my tool here doesn't have a frame, so it only has a body because that's what when you create this in SolidWorks, it shows up as the body. But we don't have a frame yet for this tool. So that's the next thing we're going to do. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a frame for this tool. So I'm going to go over to the top menu here under Home and click on Frame and Create Frame. So I'm going to select that option. Okay, so now that we have this option selected, you want to make sure that your path selection or surface selection is selected, and also your snap center is selected. So now we need to go in and pick the frame point. So in this case, our frame is going to be right here at the tip of this tool. So that's going to be our frame, which is eventually going to become our tool center point. So I'm going to, again, when you're doing this selection, always make sure that you highlight the first digit, as you can see here. So take your mouse, highlight the 0, and then bring your mouse over here and click on this once. Okay, and you can see it updates the position based on the selection, and then we can select, press the create and close. Okay, so we have created a frame which is called frame 1. The next thing we need to do is the TCP is always normal to your tool. Okay, so you need to make sure that you set that up so that it's normal to the tool. And so we're going to have to, you can see this is the TCP, and I need to make that normal to my tool. In this case, it's fairly straightforward because it's a straight tool, but if you have a curved tool, and then you need to obviously set that normal to it. So here what we're going to do is we're going to select the frame, click on the frame once, right click, and you have an option here that says set normal to surface. So I'm going to click on this, and it's going to open up this box here, and we're not going to change anything here, leave everything the way it is, but again, we want to make sure that the surface selection is active, and also your snap center is also active. So now what we're going to do is, again, go back, zoom in to the tooltip, and I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to okay, sorry, I think okay, there we go. So you want to make sure that you get this face welding tool. It's selected the right face. So again, it's surface selection and snap center, and you want to make sure that you click on this and this appears. Okay, and once you get that, you can click on apply and close this. Okay, so now what we've done is we made this normal to the tool, or normal to the surface. So that's the other step that you need to do, which is very, very important. Okay, so the next step is to make this or convert this into a tool. And to do that, we're going to go to our modeling toolbar here, and under your modeling, you should have this icon that says create tool. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create or click on this create tool. Okay, so now here we have this window that's going to open up, and so here I'm just going to leave the name the way it is here, but it's going to change because now I can go in here and select this option here which says select component. So I'm going to say use existing, so click on this, and I'm going to use my existing tool which is called the welding tool, right? So you want to make sure you select that. Now there are a few things that we need to change here. One is of course the mass or the weight of your tool, and if you're using SolidWorks or any of the other CAD packages, you can normally get the weight for your tool from the information. Usually you have a menu there that tells you the properties of the your drawing, and you should be able to figure that out. So I'm just going to guess. Unfortunately, I didn't find out what the weight was, so I'm just going to enter 2 as a rough number. The other thing that we need to enter is the center of gravity. So here what we're going to do is Robot Studio actually allows us to select the center of gravity. So we're going to select part selection, and there's a tool here that says snap gravity. So I'm going to select snap gravity and part selection, and so I'm going to go to my center of gravity, highlight the 0 here. I'm going to bring my mouse over to the tool, and I'm going to click on this. You should see that these values should get updated. Okay, so I'm going to click on my tool. There you go, right? So you see here that the value has actually changed, right? So it's now 44.04. Okay, so it actually has got the center of gravity of my tool. The next thing is the moment of inertia, and again you should be able to get these properties from SolidWorks. Again, I don't know what the numbers are, so I'm just going to leave that blank for now, and I'm going to click on next. Okay, so now we have this window. So we're going to go in and select or make a few changes here. So the first thing I'm going to do is change the name of my tool. So I know we called it welding tool, but now that we have a TCP point for it, let's change the name to T for TCP, and I'm just going to use welding tool. Okay, so T, small letter T, welding tool, and it says values from target or frame. So this is where we need to select the frame that we created. So in this case it's frame 1. So I'm going to go down to this drop down menu and select frame 1. Okay, and you can see that it has updated the position based on the frame 1 coordinates. Okay, that's what you need to do there. And now I need to add this over to my TCP. So I'm just going to press this toolbar here with the arrow, click on that once. Okay, so now I have T welding tool, and I'm going to click on done. And you can see that now we have our new tool here, or new TCP point that has been created for our tool. Okay, so before we do anything, what you can do is you can actually go ahead and save this tool. So you can right click on the tool once, and then select your tool, right click, and say save as library. Okay, so I'm going to click on this, and you can see here it actually saves it in a different format. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this as let's call it T welding tool, and I'm going to save it in the same folder that I saved the other one. So over here, and you can see that this is a .rslib file, okay, library file. I'm going to click on save. Okay, so now we have our tool, and we've created the TCP point. We've set it up. Now I'm just going to go back to my robot, and let's make that visible. So click on your robot once, right click, and let's select visible. Okay, now our robot is visible. and our tool is you can't really see it, it's invisible here, but so now we need to move it over here. So I'm going to select my tool, right click, and I'm going to say attach to my robot. Do you want to save the update the position? I'm going to say yes, and there you go. So now you'll notice that the tool tip has the new TCP point. So let's try an experiment with this. Okay, so now let's try the tool center point. Let's use the jog linear and let's see what happens now that our tool has the tool center point redefined to the tip here. So I'm going to go ahead and press the jog linear. Now click on my tool, and you'll see that now the tool center point is now at the tip of my welding tool. Okay, so basically what we have done here is shift the tool center point from the tool flange plate to the tip of the tool here. Okay, so now we've created a new tool, and so that's let's close that. And so now you have your TCP, or your new tool center point. Hope you liked the video. If you like it, please do not forget to subscribe. I will be posting more videos in the future. Thank you.